Well, I come from a long line of entrepreneurs, actually. My father was a public speaker and had his own business. My mother is a mental health counselor. She had her own business. But my biggest influence for becoming an entrepreneur was my grandfather, my mother's father. He came to this country from Poland and had nothing. And he started selling apples on an apple cart and eventually made enough to buy a small cart and then a truck and carried stuff for people and eventually opened up a scrap iron business and made a multi-million dollar business out of it and had the whole family, sent the kids through college, all that kind of good stuff. And that to me is what it's all about, was finding a way to do that. Well, as I was mentioning my grandfather, two things that he always said to me when I was growing up. One, if you have something that you're good at that people are willing to pay you for, you have a career. And if you have a solution to a problem, you have a business. So I had a number of businesses as a kid. Whenever you see a solution to a problem, you find a solution and people pay you for it. So I had a little calligraphy business as a kid, and then I sold AutoCAD for a company called CAD Graphic Systems. And when I saw the internet coming out, I saw a need for people to A, learn how to use the internet, and B, have a place where people could come and do it. So I opened up a little internet cafe in 1995 called Common Grounds. And I ran that for about 5 years. And through doing the cafe, people would ask me to design websites for them. And I had an architecture and design background and thought that it would be a natural mix. So I started doing websites for people, and it's been 15 years. Oh, there's always the financial challenges. Being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. You've got to risk it all sometimes. And I took out a big SBA loan, and sometimes in order to pay the employees, you got to run a credit card through and hand out the money. But if you stick to it and you don't give up, and you see that you can survive, then you manage to make a good business out of it. And it took me 7 years to dig out of all the debt that I had to go in to start the business, but it gets easier the longer you do it. I'm not the type who likes to be told what to do, so just had a number of bosses when I worked menial jobs in grocery stores and stuff, and didn't like people telling me what to do, and uh, found that I got a lot more respect when people were coming to me directly to do something, and I like working for myself a lot better. I mean, there are advantages and disadvantages to working for yourself. The advantage is that you get to pick which 60 hours a week you get to work. Um, there really is no other way to learn to be your own boss other than just doing it. But having influences and role models certainly helps. I had my role models, but you don't have to do it entirely on your own. There are people out there who are willing to lend you a hand if you're asking for it. Hindsight is always 2020. I mean, I would have taken all the money that the SBA gave me, and instead of opening a cafe, I would have invested in Yahoo. But how can you go back and do that? I'm happy with what I did and what I created. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. When you're an entrepreneur and you own your own business, you've always got to be watching out for what's next. I mean, the web design that I do now is nothing like the web design that I did 15 years ago. 15 years ago it was just straight HTML and a glorified brochure, and now you've got database-driven sites and PHP and MySQL programming and Drupal and all kinds of things that just didn't exist back then. So you've always got to be moving and changing with the times. If you continue to do things the same way, you will fail. That's just it. You can't do the same thing over and over again and expect it to continue to work forever. You've always got to be looking out for what's next and improvise and change in order to survive. It's harder to budget. That's for sure. When you get a steady paycheck, you can say, this is how much money I'm going to get every single month, and this is where this portion of it goes, and this is where that portion of it goes. And when you own your own business, the cash flow fluctuates a little bit, and some months are better than others, and some years are better than others. So it takes a little bit of you know, I guess, intestinal fortitude to run your own business because there's always that little bit of uncertainty when you're running your own business. Make sure that you learn a trade in addition to just doing all the academic stuff. If you learn yourself a trade, you can go out there and make opportunities for yourself. Today, a lot of kids who are graduating from college don't have the opportunities to open doors for themselves because they don't have the experience other than book knowledge. And by learning a vocational trade, in my case, I learned computer aided drafting, CAD. It opened up a lot of doors for me that wouldn't have otherwise been opened if I had just done the academic route. Well, I get to pick when I have my vacation and how I have my vacation, but at the same time, I always have to take my work with me. So I don't get like the 2 weeks of vacation where nobody bothers me. I've always got to have my computer with me and be available for emergencies and stuff. I can pick when I come into work and I can pick when I leave work to a point. I have a family, so I have to kind of work during the day when the kids are in school. But when I was single, I could work whenever I felt like it until 2 o'clock in the morning, and then sleep until noon if I felt like it. And that's it depends on what kind of business you go into. But I think that being able to set your own hours and choose your own lifestyle is part of being an entrepreneur.